everyone. Happy Friday, or maybe it's happy Saturday, wherever you are. This is USA Global TV and Radio. I'm Dr. Jacalyn KERBECK. I'm the president, founder, and chief listening officer here at our network. Our show today is Authentic Achievements, and our topic is how to deal with the holiday blues, tips for bringing a smile to your face. Joining me is the star of our show, KIM-ADELE'S. We've been having some amazing discussions here on this show. I really value her for her authenticity and her candor and all of what she brings to this platform. Let's welcome her to the program. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello.
Hey, Dr. Jacalyn. How lovely to see you again. And you're always so super kind to me. Thank you. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you.
Well, thank you. I feel the same about you. And we really do get into some deep conversations here, which is always fun. Before we get into this topic about bringing a smile to people's faces, you've been working with people for years and years. How do you bring smiles to their faces?
Oh, it's such a great question because it can be so hard, can't it? Sometimes we can get so bogged down in what we're trying to be to everybody else. And I think sometimes it's trying to find those little moments that just make something fun. So one of the things I always ask people to think about is something that is guaranteed to make them laugh. Because if you've just got that memory of something and really think about it, the last time that you really belly laughed at something that you wouldn't know what it is, it doesn't matter if nobody else laughs at it, it's what makes you laugh. And just hold on to that memory. And the next time that you're feeling a little bit blue, ask yourself to revisit that moment where you were laughing and then think about the thing that's troubling you. And it never seems as bad.
That's a great point. I love it. So, we do take for granted that some people do. I shouldn't say we or everyone, but just in general, that the holidays are happy times, but that's not necessarily true for everyone. Some people maybe just went through something, they lost someone, or it brings back memories of things that are no longer. And people get depressed, or maybe they don't have anyone to celebrate the holiday with, or they don't have faith, whatever the case may be. So have you ever felt that way, kind of sad or depressed or lonely on the holiday, that time of year?
Yeah, I'll be honest, like it was 5 years ago that my marriage broke down, literally about a week. It was the 1st of December, so just before Christmas, just after my little girl's first birthday. And I hadn't expected it. I hadn't seen it coming. I was facing surgery. It wasn't the greatest time of my life. It was a kind of perfect storm almost of things that could go wrong. I'd given my job up. I was facing surgery. My marriage broke down. I was now an overnight 44-year-old unemployed single mum facing surgery. Life felt pretty down. And there were moments during all of that. I remember, I sometimes have shared this, it was probably my most melodramatic moment ever. I remember laying on the kitchen floor in floods of tears thinking, I don't know how to breathe. And of course I do know how to breathe. And 5 years on, here I am, I'm still breathing. So that was perhaps a little melancholy. But in that moment, that was how lost I felt. That was how overwhelmed I was with the situation and everything that was going around me. And then I was very, very fortunate. My little girl cried. And that was the impetus I needed to get up off the floor, because I realized in that minute that she's one. She didn't ask to be born. She needed me to be able to feed her, look after her. And therefore I had to get up off the floor and start to breathe and just focus. And what I found during that period was trying to be kind to myself, being kind to the fact that not every day was going to be a brilliant day. And some days my success criteria needed to be just a little bit smaller. On some days, adulting appropriately for 12 hours was enough to get a massive big high five and a huge celebration, because that felt like a major feat for me on those days. And I also realized that, like many of us, we're guilty of having to put that front on for somebody else. I had picked up a new job. The week later, I was now running an organization, and I was their CEO. I was their interim leader. I wasn't able to go in every day and feel sorry for myself or look at what was going on in my world, because they needed me to be there for them. And for me personally, that really helped. I'd go every day and focus on everybody else's problems, because it allowed me a reprieve from focusing on my own. But I will share, I had a coping mechanism that with hindsight was not the best coping mechanism in the world. I worked out that if I started crying at 8 o'clock at night, and as long as I stopped crying by 2 in the morning, nobody'd ever know, because it was in between my daughter's feeds, and it was long enough that in the morning when I got up to go to work, I didn't look like I'd been slapped around the face with a wet fish. And I coped like that for about 3 months, until I suddenly looked back and realized that actually I'd got through it. We'd settled in our new house. I'd got a new job. We were making our new life work for us. But that wasn't the best coping mechanism. And I've got amazing friends and family that were like, why didn't you share with us how you were feeling? But sometimes we can't. Sometimes we can't admit to anybody else that that is how we're feeling, because that is the last bit of us that we're holding on to. But I think what I learned is it's okay to share, because we all have those moments, and sometimes we just need to let people in.
Oh my goodness. So much that you just shared there is so powerful. And I'm just trying to imagine that sense of loss of so many things all at one time. And yet you were able to take that and transfer it to helping other people. And yet when you were by yourself, that's when you would let it all go. And I imagine it was probably cathartic to be able to let the feelings out, but at the same time, it's also exhausting, isn't it?
It is, and at times it felt really selfish and overindulgent. That you would like just sat there sobbing your little socks off for no apparent reason. But it was a great way of getting it out. One of the things that I've learned with the many opportunities life's given me to keep learning lessons is when we keep our emotions on the inside, that's when they do the most damage, because we just want to be heard. And sometimes we might not want to be heard by anybody else, but we can give ourselves permission to be heard by ourselves. But you're right, it is tiring. It is, and then we get, or I do, I don't know if I can say we, not everybody does, but you then end up in this internal battle where you're telling yourself off for feeling that way, for not being able to just get on with it and kind of move forward, and for feeling down and sad. And then you get angry with yourself for getting sad with yourself, and now you're having an entire battle. It's like, wowzer. It's like, I'm making up for the fact I'm not sharing it with anybody else by turning myself into some kind of, alter ego where I'm going to argue with myself. And that can be really hard and really sad. And I guess, one of the things that I've found, and it's helped me through so many situations where things have been really tough, is when I can't see the way out, when I can't see how to solve the problem, that's when I can find myself spiraling into that, it's too much, I can't cope. And so instead I look at what is the one thing that I know I can do, no matter how small it is, doesn't matter how tiny it is. And I will focus on doing that one thing. I often share with people, it becomes the life raft to cling to in the stormy seas of my mind when things are overwhelming. And it might be tiny, but if I can just keep focusing on what is that one thing and do that, then I keep moving forward and I keep changing my viewpoint. And then maybe the answer will come into play. But it also allows me to have a moment to recognize that I am doing something, that I am moving forward, even if it is in a seemingly small and insignificant way. We are at least making some progress.
Absolutely. It's that light at the end of the tunnel where, to your point, it doesn't matter how small it is. It's that we're going in that direction, as opposed to just what one of our team members, Janetta Barry, she calls wallowing.
Yeah.
And that's how some people get stuck. They literally are wallowing and feel that there is no hope and they have no one to speak with. I've mentioned before that I run a support group for the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. I've been doing it for a number of years. And I think part of what brings a smile to my face, also tears though, is volunteering and knowing that somebody who shows up for the meeting, that might be exactly what they need, just somebody there to listen. And the support group meeting was this week. We only had one person show up, but long story short, it was so important that I was there, just somebody, not me specifically, but somebody there for this person. And this person's daughter was diagnosed at 14 with ulcerative colitis, and her mother is just distraught and nervous. And anyway, I just was trying to do whatever I could to just be a good listener, make connections, introductions. And so after the meeting, she had been crying and crying. I had to go for a walk, and I just started sobbing and felt just so angry that, I have the disease myself, and knowing what it's like that this 14-year-old is going to have this unless they come up with some cure. But the point is that volunteering is something that is so important. And I can actually smile now and say, I'm so glad that I had that meeting, because I was able to touch one person. And I think when we realize that there are people all over the world who need someone to listen, or just to know somebody's there, and we can be that person.
And what a huge gift to give people the gift of listening. I always love that you're the chief listening officer, because listening is so important, and we want to be listened to. We don't always want somebody to fix it for us, and I think this is often the thing where it gets uncomfortable for people to be there and hold the space, because very often we don't want you to give us an answer, we don't want you to solve the problem, we just want you to sit with us and hold a space while we share how we feel. And that is such a beautiful gift if you can ever give that to somebody. I've got a really good friend who always reminds me that listening is an act of love. To sit and just listen to somebody is an act of love. And we feel that. When somebody really listens to us, we feel it. And so sometimes, just giving that out, or just in every day, I go around every day and look for something positive that I can pass on to somebody. They might might have amazing hair, they might have a really lovely smile, they might have a really pretty outfit on. It doesn't matter what it is, but I do my best to make sure in every day I go up to somebody and say, you look beautiful today, or you look very handsome, or I think you've got a great smile. Because you just never know when that might be the one thing that they needed to feel appreciated in that day. But we can all do it. We all spot it sometimes, don't we? We're walking down the street and we'll go, oh, they look lovely. And we keep it to ourselves. And what do we think they're going to do if we say that they look lovely? Tell us to go away, maybe. But I doubt it. More often than not, it makes people smile. And once we're smiling about something, it's much harder to see it in a negative form, because it's really hard. I do this with my little girl all of the time, poor child that she is. But when she'll be sitting there, she'll go, Mummy, I'm grumpy and I'm sad. I'm like, are you really grumpy, darling? And she's like, yes, Mummy, I'm really grumpy. I was like, oh, come on, if we're going to be grumpy, I really need to see your proper grumpy face. Like really make your grumpy face for me. Come on, that's not grumpy enough. Really make it. And I do it because it makes her laugh. She cannot help it. Even if she's really sad, when she's really trying to really demonstrate that grumpy face, she giggles every time. And as soon as I get her into that giggle piece, then we can talk about whatever it is that's concerning her, but it's already less of a problem for her, because she's realized that actually she can now be looking at it from the other side of the happiness piece. She's no longer coming at it from I am sad and I'm grumpy and I'm overwhelmed. It's actually, I'm laughing about it in the moment, but this is still bothering me, but that's okay, because actually, look, I'm already seeing some light over here. And now I can look back at what was happening versus feeling like it's the obstacle that's between me and where I want to be.
I love that. I'm just imagining you used to show me your grumpy face. It's so important to laugh. Doesn't it feel good even just now, just having a chuckle? It really feels good. We've got a comment from one of our team members. Hello, Alicia Harrison, one of our elevated listeners. Great info. Holidays can be a struggle for so many. That is absolutely correct. We're glad to have you with us today. And something that you said, KIM-ADELE, I just wanted to go back to for a moment is, when we are given that privilege of being the listener, we sometimes feel the pressure to provide a solution. And that we can actually just take off the table, because as a listener, it's not our job to provide a solution. And as soon as we start thinking about the solution, we're no longer listening. And the other thing is, I'll just give an example for myself, is, the ulcerative colitis, because it's with me every day. People will say, well, have you tried Pepto-Bismol? Have you, like, dude, I got a disease, right? It's not, Pepto-Bismol's not going to help me. But we feel pressure because we feel uncomfortable. We don't know what to say. But the truth is, we don't have to say anything. We just have to listen. And I promise the other person will really be grateful, because we don't want to hear a bunch of things about what we should be doing. Because how do I know what you should be doing? How do you know what I should be doing? We don't know. But if I'm there for you as a listener, you're going to remember that, and that can change what it is that you do.
Oh, I love that. And that is so true, Dr. Jacqueline, because we do sometimes feel pressure to feel like we want to fix stuff, we want to leave it better, or we want to demonstrate that we're empathizing with somebody. But sometimes inadvertently, we can cause real offense. If we say, I know exactly what you're feeling. Well, how do you? You're not them. You might know how you felt in a similar situation, but you don't know how they feel, because it's them. You've not asked enough questions to know how they feel. So one of the things I try really hard to do is always say, I can't begin to imagine how you're feeling, because I can't. So tell me about it. Share with me. Help me understand. Because actually that's a great way of getting that emotion and that feeling out there. And you're still demonstrating that empathy, that wanting to be with them, but you're no longer giving them a label that makes people feel like actually you're dismissing how they feel, because you already know how they feel. So you've already been there and you've done it better. It can sometimes cause people to feel unlistened to, as you so eloquently put. So I think I guess as a listener, it's getting comfortable with uncomfortable, because it's not yours to fix. It's yours to listen. It's yours to create a safe space where the person can share. But it's not to necessarily give them an answer, because very often the person with the problem's got the answer. They just need to be able to get it out of their head and see it in a different space, because we've all had those times, haven't we, where you've had something going around your head, and it's so plausible. And the minute you actually have to share it with another human being, you go, do you know what? It's all right. I now know for myself how ridiculous that is, because I've just physically heard it. But I've been playing that in my head for a couple of weeks, and it made perfect sense to me until I actually aired it. So the art of listening is allowing people to use you and your space to be able to sound for themselves what they think, what they don't think, how they feel. And I think it is such a gift. And you're so right. When we start to think about solving the problem, we're no longer listening. And I guess because I do this for a living, people very often, if you stop trying to give them the answer, sorry, the dog's decided he wants to turn into put a smile on everyone's face, pudding. It'd be a Christmas pudding, yeah. But when we start to do that, then actually they feel unlistened to, because we miss the great opportunity where they share something. I was talking to a lady the other day, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." And I was like, I always worry when people say fine, because when I say fine, I mean fed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. I am definitely not fine. It's like, get me a cup of tea and back away. It's the way to go. So I think, well, there's usually a better word for fine. And then she went on to say things like, oh, I'm soldiering on. Well, when we're soldiering on, that often feels like we're feeling under attack, that we're under a battle. And unless we're really listening, we miss those cues that people are giving us that allow us to ask better questions, to enable them to open up and share more, because they might not need us to do anything other than give them that time and space to be able to delve into how they really are feeling. Why do they think those words? What is the underlying piece that's coming out? And so getting comfortable with the fact that you probably won't know the answer is a great skill as a listener, I think.
Absolutely. And I love how you defined fine. Tell us that again. Feeling insecure, neurotic, and
fed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Because whenever you're, I mean, normally, I'm great, or I'm excited, or I'm happy, or I'm tired. I'm never just fine. Fine, basically, in my world, and this is just in my world, Fine means I don't want to talk about it. You don't really want to listen anyway. So when I say I'm fine to people, it's the people that I think, you're just asking because it's polite. You've not really got time for me to tell you how I really feel. And to be fair, I don't really want to talk about it. So it's kind of, it's almost that, it's the get out of jail free card, isn't it? Because when somebody says, you say, are you okay? And they go, yeah, I'm fine. There you go. I asked them. It's okay. They don't look that fine, but it's all right. He said, fine, big tick. Here I go. I can get on with my own day. And it's like, if you imagine you've spent hours getting ready and you've really tried hard, and you come down and you say, how do I look? And somebody goes, fine. Do you ever feel thrilled? Do you ever go, oh, amazing, thanks, fine is exactly what I was aiming for? Never. It's like, it immediately makes you think, oh, I don't look good enough then. Is my hair not quite right? Have I not done my makeup? Maybe this dress doesn't look great. I wonder if I should. If somebody says you look fine, you never think I've done a great job. This is me on my best day. This is me red carpet ready. You're like, oh, I'm fine. I think it's a deflating word in the world, but maybe I've made it too big for me in my world and my space. So I now use it to joke it out with people. When I go, I'm fine. It means fed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Don't come here unless you want to have a whole world of woe is me, because that's how I'm feeling right now. But again, because I've got that nice badge to it, it makes me smile, makes me laugh. And then I immediately look at what's going on in my world and it's not really as bad as I thought it was. It might be bad. It might not be the best day ever. But it's not as bad as I thought it was, because it's really hard to, when you've laughed at something, it's really hard to then immediately be miserable. It's like if you sit and just laugh for a couple of minutes, and then think about anything, it's very, very hard to switch from that level of happy to that level of sad. So it can be a great opportunity to just shift the spirit, doesn't it? And some of the things I do, if things really aren't going very well, is I go and do something that I know is guaranteed to make me smile. Like put on a song that I really enjoy and dance ludicrously around the kitchen. Because nobody else,
see it, Kim-ADELE'S.
Nobody else is there. Scarlett and I do it all of the time, where we'll be like, should we put a song on, darling, or should we just have a little dance? Our neighbours probably think we're crazy people, because we're happily singing our little hearts out, dancing around. The dog gets jealous and joins in. But all of a sudden, the world seems a much happier place. You look at it and go, okay, well, we're feeling a much more high energy now. So now let's look at the problem. And yeah, it's bad, it's sad, it's awful that somebody made us feel like that. But it was a moment, wasn't it? And we've just had a much better moment. So which one do we want to focus on? I'm going to focus it here because this one's nice. we like that. And I think there's a great TEDx. I think it's a TED talk by Amy Cundy that talks about power poses. And she shares in this that actually, they did this research and they had equally qualified people. So backgrounds, qualifications, exactly the same. And half of the room, they made go and do power poses. So like standing like Superman or putting your hands on your hips like Wonder Woman and thinking positive thoughts. And they had the other room sitting, looking down, going inward in the way that they held themselves. And then they went into the interview. And 100% of the people with power poses were offered the job. And the people that had got the negative piece, almost none of them got offered the job, despite the fact that they were equally qualified. And it's about how we're making ourselves feel. It's about where our energy is. So when I find myself in a doom loop of energy, which happens to us all, life throws us plot twists, and sometimes they're not the ones we want to get, is I try and look at what can I do right now that's going to bring me joy, even if it is just sing really loud, turn the volume up. If I've had a bad day, I switch the phone off, I refuse to take any calls, and I sing as loud as I possibly can in the car. Fortunately, my little girl thinks I've got a beautiful singing voice. Me and the rest of the world know that I've got a voice like fingers on a blackboard, which is why I only do it in the car with her, because she loves it. Nobody else needs to suffer the pain. But it always brings me joy. It always allows me to lift my energy. And then the world never looks quite as bleak. when you start it with a smile.
I love I love that analogy about your voice too.
It's dreadful.
You know, we want to watch you dance and we want to hear you sing. Those are at the top of the list right now.
Honestly, people would, if I were a busker, people would pay me to stop. They would be like, seriously, make that stop. Who's hurting those cats? Why isn't somebody saving them? This is like cruelty to animals. But my little girl, bless her heart, thinks it's amazing. And it's one of those moments where you make a choice. So one of her things every night, and that we've done this since she was born, is when she goes to bed after books and what have you, she always has 2 songs. And it's the same 2 songs. So the first one is You Are My Sunshine, and the second one is Twinkle Twinkle. And she won't go to sleep unless she's had these 2 songs. And I obviously have to sing them, to the point that actually if I'm away and she's at my parents' house, she still needs her songs. So I used to be really embarrassed about this because like my voice is awful. But my love for my daughter is greater than my embarrassment level. And so I have been known to stand on St Pancras Station and sing her the song whilst trying to face a wall and hope nobody's looking at me, admittedly. But because actually you kind of look at it and go, do you know, I don't really care what you lot think. I care that this is important, as showing her an act of love, letting her know how important she is to me, because whatever else is happening, she's gonna get that. And then all of a sudden you look at it and go, well, hey, look, I survived. You know, nobody actually called the police on me and went, get her out. And it was okay. So I think sometimes it's finding something that is more important to us than the thing that's causing us the angst, and focusing on that allows us a way through as well.
Absolutely brilliant. And I love the fact that instead of focusing on how you feel about your voice, that you just put your voice out there because it's so important for your daughter to hear it. And I think that's a great thing that we can also do to help others, like get out of our own way. Sometimes we just stand in our own way from doing something to help someone else. And I think also we get caught up in how things used to be. Well, last year, especially the holidays, right? People will say, well, we had this big family get together or we went on a trip or whatever it is. And it's not like that anymore, but we can find some goodness, some way to celebrate in the new situation. And I'll give you an example. So before the pandemic, I lived on my own, and now I'm with my mom, and there's no family here. So it's just the 2 of us. So I used to put up a big Christmas tree, and my Christmas tree, I have all these handbags and Barbies and all these feather boas, and we don't have any tree. There's no decorations. There's no tree. Well, there's no gifts. There won't be any big dinner. And I don't dwell on it. I just dwell on the fact that life is very different now. And so what I do is at night, I go walk around the neighborhood and I look at other people's lights, and we have lights and a giant Santa and everything, but I'm not putting it up because I don't feel it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but I don't feel like doing the work. I don't need that Santa up for me to feel a certain way. And my mom is not going to care about it. So the point is, things are different, but they're different in a good way, because there's not as much stress about all the other things that come along with the holidays. You know, there's so many things that people get stressed out. And I just am grateful for all the things that I have. I'm grateful for this platform. I'm grateful that after today's work, I'll go outside and the sun is shining. There's countless things to be grateful for.
Oh, I love that. And you're right, is looking at those things to be grateful for. And I think, we make those changes. Last year wasn't my year to have my little girl at Christmas. And so I didn't put the tree up because I didn't feel it. I decorated the rest of the house. I only didn't have her for 2 days, but she's such a massive part of my life. That was big for me. So I made sure that everything else was done. And it was only this year when we went to put the tree up, because I do have her this year, that I realized how much other stuff I must have bought last year to deck out the rest of the house, because the tree wasn't there. So we literally look like somebody's thrown up Christmas in our house at the moment. But I love that because she's loving it. But for last year, what was right for me last year was to do what I did. And I've learned to be kind to myself and go, well, actually, I'm going to do what feels right for me, because that's the only thing I can really do. People can only do what's right for them. And as long as we're not doing it at the detriment of somebody else. So I always ask myself, is this kind? Is it fair? Is it consistent? And as long as the answer is yes, then I can do it. And yet we have our Christmas Day tradition is not to have Christmas dinner, because I knew that alternate years I won't have her. So I don't want her to feel like she's missing out. So we have something totally different on Christmas Day. But what we do have as a bit of a Christmas tradition, which I'll be honest, on Sunday, her birthday party was on Saturday, and then on Sunday she was like, "Mummy, we can do Christmas now." So we decked the house with trees, lights, and all the rest of it, and we made a full-on Christmas dinner for the two of us. And she was like, "We need this and this." And so I was like, "Scarlett, there's me and you. We will be eating this for about the next 6 weeks if we're not careful." And she was like, "But Mummy, it's tradition." And I was like, "Yeah, do you know what? It's okay." And our tradition can be very different to anybody else's. And that's absolutely fine, because their tradition is about how they see it and about the love and the joy that they bring. And I think once we recognize that we're not being judged by anybody else but ourselves, it becomes a little bit less stressful.
Absolutely. I love the idea that you had the Christmas dinner like that. That's fantastic. And I think what you're alluding to there is that we get caught up in trends, the
Yeah.
trends of what we're supposed to be doing, the trends of what the movie stars and Hollywood people are doing, what we see on mainstream television. And that doesn't have to be our story. And if we see people who are in the trends, that doesn't mean that they're happy. You know how many people there are that during the holidays, it is so stressful. First of all, money is a big stress factor for a lot of people, especially during the holidays, because of the dinners, because of the gifts, because of the traveling. And then many times people are not in their own homes and there's somebody else's and they're with family they haven't seen for a while, or somebody they have issues with, or somebody brings up something that becomes an issue, and it can be very, very stressful. And then there are people who are alone and they're very sad. There are people in hospitals, there are people in orphanages. I mean, we could go on and on and on. And each and every one of us has to find that light, that, and if you have religion or you have faith or spirituality, that's a great thing. Also meditation, yoga, but it's one moment in time. And one of our team members, Justin, brought up the fact that if you live to be 80, there'll be 80 Christmases that you will have had, or 80 New Year's, or 80 whatever it is, which is a finite number compared to the number of days in a year in our lives. So I think it's important to keep that in check too. And when you're feeling alone or blue, maybe if you have the ability, go outside. Something about communing with nature is powerful.
It's so true. And I had a good friend of mine who told me that everybody has a tree. So we all have a tree, something that we might not have found it yet. You're all going to think I've turned to weird tree hugger. But if you're feeling down, go outside and find a tree that you just sit under. There's something about being that close to nature, that connected to something that has weathered life for hundreds of years, that makes us realize we all can. Because come rain or shine, frost or snow, it stands there stoically getting on with its life. And I think it always, I personally, so as soon as she told me this, I love it. I want to find my tree. And whenever things are going a little bit sour for me, we go and sit under the tree and have a picnic or take a hot chocolate or something. It doesn't matter whether, what it is, but actually just being quiet under that tree for 10 minutes really helps me realize that actually we weather the storm, because every single one of us has survived 100% of the shots life's taken at us. That's one heck of a batting average. And I try to remind myself that every time life takes another shot is, do you know what? Instead of why me, try me, because I've survived everything else. So I'm going to back myself that I can survive this too.
I love everything you just said, especially about the tree parts. Here in Florida, there's so many different types of trees. And when I'm able to, I try to go out and walk every day at least once, and I see these huge trees and these enormous roots, and in some cases the sidewalk or whatever walking path has been permeated by these roots, and people complain about them because it can be dangerous, you can trip, and I'm thinking, this tree was here way before us. They have every right to be here. But when you look at it, to your point, it's weathered all the hurricanes, all the storms, all the animals living in. I mean, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I was driving yesterday, and last month was really stressful for me for a lot of reasons with my health. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm still here. I'm still here. I didn't go anywhere. I'm still here doing what it is I love to do. So I think we get so in the weeds. My dad, when he was alive, we used to talk about our worry list, because whatever we worried about was typically not going to happen. So we would just throw things out there on this list. It wasn't an actual list, but it was, that we talked about it, and he'd say, okay, get hit by a car, whatever it was. And that's not what happens to it. It's whatever you don't think is going to happen is what ends up happening. So we spend so much time worrying about things that are out of our control instead of celebrating the things that we have, and the accomplishments, the authentic achievements that can come any and every day, depending on how we look at it.
I love that, and it's so true. If we can focus on the things that we want, then we're already we as human beings, we very often set all of our goals in the negative. So when we achieve them, we only achieved not doing something we didn't want. And you're like, okay, so it doesn't feel that good. So I talk to clients all the time that's like, don't tell me what you don't want. I don't want to work for an overbearing boss. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I'm like, it's great, but what do you want? Because we need to move you to where you want to be so you can celebrate it, and it doesn't matter what that is, and you don't need to worry that your version of success isn't going to come up to anybody else's standards. It's your version of success. It's going to be what brings you joy. And I think once we get into that space, we get comfortable with that, everything else becomes so much easier, doesn't it, for us to be able to think about how do we celebrate it. Scarlett and I will have every week, what are we grateful for? We do it every day. So what are we grateful for? And it can range from, I woke up again, on some days, that might be enough, to actually, this cup of tea is really lovely. It doesn't matter what it is. Or Pudding's actually managed to only bark twice during the show. I'm grateful for it. It could have been a lot worse. But once we start thinking about those tiny little things that we're grateful for, we find more and more of them, and you can make it a bit of a game. That it's like, what else is there that we're grateful for today? I'm always grateful that my tea is not liver and onions, because I vividly remember having to have that as a child. So whenever I'm struggling to have something I'm grateful for, I'm like, at least I haven't got liver and onions for tea. I'm just going to take that. That is, for me, something that brings me joy, because it reminds me of things that happened in my past. And I think if we can just create our strategies for joy, so what can we do? And I've a friend of mine, bear with me because I have it. I have it here. A friend of mine came up with this brilliant idea where you have to get a Big Me Up book. So this one's my Big Me Up book, and it's tiny enough that you can take it anywhere. And what you do is you write down all the things that you're good at, or all the times where people have shared with you that you're good at something, or said thank you to you because you did something that helped them out, or you sat with them and you were kind. But keep that with you, because when you have those moments where the world gets overwhelming, and it happens to us all, you can flick through that book and remind yourself of all of the people that are grateful, that have you on their gratitude list. Because sometimes in that moment, you feel so alone that you don't think anybody else would notice if you were there, or you wouldn't. But I guarantee that every single one of us is on somebody's grateful list.
I love that, Kim-Adele. I never thought about that. That's a great point. Absolutely. And I love what you're just sharing about the tea, liver and onions. And I was thinking to myself, I posted last night on social media about how grateful I am for Solid Core, which is this workout that I do. And I'm really grateful because it's 5 minutes from my house. If they decided to move it, because the place where it's located, there's a lot of available commercial real estate. And I thought to myself, wow, what if they decided to move it from where it is? I'm really grateful just for that I have the ability, because if it was further away, I wouldn't be able to leave the house for that long. So they're always something that we have that we can be giving thanks. So I think as we come to the close of this show about how to deal with holiday blues and tips for bringing a smile to your face, that we've touched on a number. You've really highlighted so many: smiling, giving gratitude, looking for the positives, hugging a tree. What are some of the others that we want to leave our audience with today?
Yeah, I think like, think about what are the things where you know they bring you joy, and can you do more of those? Pass on a smile. There's an amazing poem that I think Spike Milligan talked about that says, smiling is contagious. If you smile at somebody, they'll smile back, and then they'll smile at somebody else. So, thinking about this and smiling is great. And for me personally, music and dancing is it always brings me joy. For other people, it might bring them absolute terror and dread. So it's finding those bits. So it might be you've got different taste in music. Find the thing that brings you an opportunity to lift your spirits, and think about times that made you, when you were happy, what made you happy about them? How did that feel? And really get into that memory about, how did it feel? What was I seeing? What was I hearing? What was I smelling? Because you put yourself back there, and then your energy raises back to it. And it's like, okay, what can I do now that's going to help me feel the same again? And sometimes just knowing that day's not going to be you at your happiest. So look at it and say, how can I make this the most bearable day for me? What is going to work? Is that to go and spend time with other people? Is that to go and put on my favorite film? Is that to just say, do you know what, right now, I'm just not feeling it, and it's okay to not feel it. I sat with Scarlett the other day, and she was like, "Mummy, you seem a little bit down," and I was like, "No, Mummy's fine, but Mummy just needs a hug." And she was like, "What?" But I don't know. I'm just having one of those days where I just need a hug. Do you sometimes just need a hug? She was like, "Yeah." I said, "Then just call it out, acknowledge it. Sometimes we just need a moment where we allow ourselves to not judge ourselves too harshly for not living up to the perception that we've got of everybody else's perfect life, because we see that perfection, don't we? We look at what's out on social media, and we look at the seemingly perfect lives of other people and the messy reality of our own life, and we find ourselves lacking. But the reality is we are only putting our best self out there. I always say to people, I never put the no makeup selfie when I've been up all night with Scarlett, because that is my gift to the world. Nobody needs to see that. But that is the reality of what my life can be like sometimes. And I think it's just recognizing that broken crayons still color.
I love that. Where do you come up with these things? Broken crayons. It's fabulous.
I have a whole head full of them. People like, you've literally got a quote for everything. And I was like, I know, a quote or an anecdote. It's always been my way, I guess, because I love hearing other people's stories, and then I remember them, and I'm like, that really resonated with me at something. And I loved the whole one. I used it with Scarlett all the time, because you break a crayon, it's the end of the world. And anybody that's got children will know that. You're like, I'm like, Scarlett, broken crayons still color. And it's a great reminder to us all that actually, even when things aren't going great, we still work. And we can still create something beautiful. You can still create a masterpiece with a broken crayon. But you've just got to think about it differently. You've got to focus on what can be done, not what can't be done.
And I just want to take the one thing that you shared about the hug, that sometimes we need that hug, and sometimes we need space. And that's okay too. If someone shares with you, they just need a little time, a little space, give them that gift, because sometimes we have so much going on in our heads. We just need to take a time out, right? Like children do, take a time out.
It's so true. And sometimes you go, I don't want to be fixed. one of my most horrendous moments was when I got upset once and somebody came over to hug me. I was like, the last thing I need right now is a hug. I'm desperately trying to recover myself from this situation. And you hug me, I'm a goner. It's like, leave me be. So I think it's allowing people to be whatever they need to be and giving them that gift of being able to provide them that space to let them be whatever they need to be in that moment.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me from our conversation today, which I always love, is about listening. It's about just giving someone an opportunity to share without interrupting them, without trying to fix them, coming up with solutions. And of course, the one that drives me crazy is when somebody starts to share something and then the other person has a better story in their mind. They have a better story. Let me take the stage away from you and talk all about me and my story so that you can sit there, haven't been able to finish what you were saying, and now it's all about me.
Oh, I love that. Because I have a little phrase for everybody. I used to call them the Tommy top-ups because I had a friend when I was younger called Tommy, and he always could top up your story. Whatever anybody'd done, he'd been there and done it bigger, better, faster, quicker, more significant. And you're like, must be really hard to be you, to always have been better than everybody else. That level of perfection must be really difficult to live with. And so I'm going to be compassionate to you. But there are moments when I hear people saying it, I'm like, oh, look, we've got a Tommy top-up coming. Just because it makes me smile, and then I can get less frustrated with the fact that just listen to what the other person says. You already know your story. You already know your outcome. You've lived it. You don't know theirs. And I think, because we live a phrase. It's like, if we open our mouths, we're only ever going to learn something we already knew. But if we open our ears, we get to learn something entirely new. And that, just like when we were kids, when you read a book, that learning can take us on a magical mystery tour to something that we never dreamt was possible.
Absolutely beautiful. Once again, thank you for sharing, for being so candid, and thanks to Pudding. We love you, Pudding, and Scarlett. So you already had your Christmas dinner. Will you do anything that's traditional? You talked about decorating the house. Do you have other traditions that you're going to be putting into place, or you already have for this holiday season?
Yeah. So I'm currently sat here with a Christmas jumper on because it's Christmas jumper day in the UK. And Scarlett was like, "Mummy, you've not got your Christmas jumper on." And I was like, "Okay, awkward. Put my Christmas jumper on."
Wait, it's an official day in the UK?
Yeah. So
it's jumper day.
Everybody goes around wearing their Christmas jumpers, which is great. So all the kids at school have got theirs on, and it's lovely to see that level of excitement. So we're embracing the embarrassment of the Christmas jumpers. So we're doing that, and we've got some great things planned, visiting friends and family. And one of mine and Scarlett's little traditions is making gifts to give people, because then it's for us personally, it's a joy. We get to spend time together. We get to fill the school holidays because she has to actually do the activity, and then we get to give gifts to people at the end of it. It's like, here you go, here's some jam. So it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. It's like, you fill in my time, you're creating a memory with my little girl, and we're able to give this to somebody else. So we've got some of those, and then we always go ice skating and visiting friends and things, and just precious time with people, because I think that is the most precious gift that we've got in the world, is time, because it is the rarest thing we have. Most of us are time poor, because life's too short. So there's never enough of it to do all the things that we want to do. So I think when we give the gift of time to people, we're giving them the most important thing. And I think, I often say to friends and family, people are wanting, most of all, they want our presence, not the gift that we can buy them, but the presence of us being with them and being wholly in the moment, putting down the iPhone or the laptop or whatever else that's distracting you, and just being present. And I know for me and Scarlett, they're the gifts that we really enjoy. So I've got mapped out lots of time to be present with people. and sharing their family traditions, which become part of your own. And then we all grow together, don't we?
We absolutely do. Thank you for sharing that with us. And thank you again for being here and just giving so much value. I love all of what you share, your quotes. I love your phrases. By the way, for inquiring minds, is a jumper a dress?
Oh, no, sorry, sweater. I think would it be sweater?
Oh, it's a sweater.
Would that be right? I think is that what you'd have in America? I'm dreadful for using Englishisms all of the time that then don't translate to anybody. So I have my jumper and jeans on, which is our Christmas version. And it was lovely to see. It's lovely to see the kids get so excited, and you realise all the things that. Yeah, it was funny. I remember for many years when I was in my 20s and that, going, oh, yeah, can't possibly dress the house. It's all very Griswold, isn't it? And it's like the National Lampoon, and we don't want to do that. And now that I've got a little girl, oh my goodness, I've fully embraced it. We've got a projector that has snow going down the house, and I've worked most nights this week going, what's that? At like 10 o'clock at night, I realised that I've got like lit up snowflakes on my face, freaking me out. But I think my lesson has been to try and view the world through Scarlett's eyes. When it's still full of wonder, it's still full of the what if, the hopefulness, the what could happen. You know, when they still squeal with excitement because they saw grass, and you're like, it's grass. But actually remember what it was like when you were excited because you didn't see that every day, or you got to see. We go on she goes to gymnastics every week, and we go past this field with sheep in it, and I have to pretend to be the sheep phoning her every week. It's Sean and the sheep, and we have this conversation, and I'm like, I love it, because at some point she is not going to be interested in talking to the sheep because they're just sheep and she sees them all the time. But right now they're a moment of wonder, they're an opportunity to engage. And so I guess my final tip for getting over the holiday blues is to think, how would I view this if I were 3? If I were 3, what would I do with this? When I was 3, you could turn a cardboard box into a rocket that would take you to the moon or a princess house. And you felt it. You believed that it was that. So where you can, embrace your inner child and see it through their eyes.
What a great way to wrap things up. I love it. To have that curiosity and that wonder as children do, until some adult somewhere tells them, hey, you got to grow up. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not true. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Let's get that curiosity back, and that wonder and that childlike essence. And I think that's a great way to get a new perspective, put a smile on our face, and put a smile on somebody else's face as well.
Oh, I love that. I agree.
How can people reach out to you, and how do you help people?
Yeah, so I help people to build the life they really want, to get out of their head and into their life. So changing any of those thoughts that aren't serving us anymore. And in particular in business, being able to create a sustainable, scalable business that gives you the opportunity to live your dreams. So if you want to make next year your best year, get in touch and let's see how we can help you get out of your own way and go and deliver your dream life. You can get in touch with me at kim@KIM-ADELE'S.com, or you can find out what we're doing on www.AuthenticAchievements.com. And if you've got a story to share, come and join us on the show. We would love to be able to share your story, your thoughts, and your advice with our audience and pass that smile on. Let's get infected with joy.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Kim-Adele. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend and keep sporting that jumper. It looks great on you.
Thank you so much. And looking forward to next week. Have an amazing weekend, Dr. Jacqueline, and to all of you listening and watching. Have an amazing and hopefully joyful time.
Thank you again. See you next week. Bye for now. And thanks to each and every one of you out there who are watching or listening. Really do appreciate it. Our next show is coming up. It's The Power of Etiquette and Manners. And Dr. Shandana is joining us from Pakistan. She has been on our program once before. We're going to continue our conversation about what would it be like if medical students, physicians, nurses, everybody in the medical industry learned the power of etiquette and manners. What would our world look like? So please do join us for that. I have a couple of quick announcements that I want to share with you. We have a new book coming out. When I say we, I mean Mariska Duprier. She is the co-author of this book that is really celebrating listening skills for children and their families. The name of the book is The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the Listening Mentor. And as you know, we talk about listening on this program and all of our programs. I have a team of people who are certified as elevated listeners. That means they've taken the Power of Listening course and they have dedicated themselves to listening without judgment, without interruption, without stage hogging, and without providing a solution. And here are some of the team members represented. They actually are the animal characters in this book. So animals come together to teach listening skills. And of course, the book is meant for children as well as adults. It comes out on the 14th, and you can pre-order the ebook today. On the 14th, you can actually get the paperback and the hardback. So I'm celebrating Mariska, Caroline, Debbie, Roland, Diane, Sonia, Red, Janetta, and Hyatt. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. If you would like to become a team member here, we have our holiday special. You can take the Power of Listening. It's a 2-hour online course with a certification. Once you get certified, we will put your headshot and your certificate up on drjacalyn.com. We'll put your headshot up on usaglobaltv.com, and you can be part of our new television show, which is called The Listening Post. It's a talk show that's just about people having a chat, listening to one another. But you've got to get certified first. So how do you do it? Just go over to drjacalyn.thinkific.com/collections. And again, it's $39, 2 hours, and you'll be on the team with the rest of our team members. I want to celebrate our two newest team members. Maria Rusova, she is joining us from London, and she owns a company called Moda de la Maria, and she is a sustainable fashion icon. She has sustainable fashion that is handcrafted, tweeds, silk, and so much more. And again, you can go and visit her in London. Our other newest team member is Maria Eduardo. She's in St. Martin. She also has her own business, a catering business, and she is a Toastmaster, and she is helping people all over the world as well. So welcome to the two Marias. Thank you for joining the team. All right, we're going to close out right now. I'm going to run over to the other studio, meet with Dr. Shandana, and we'll be right back. So you stay where you are. Happy holidays, and I'll see you soon.